Hello and welcome to The Property Show. I'm Andrew Montlake and with me is my co-host Louisa Fletcher.
We're here to talk about all things property. So whether you're staying put, buying, selling, renting or letting,
we'll be chatting through the latest news on the housing market and mortgages, as well as sharing our advice and expertise to help you get the best from your home. In today's show, Lou will be looking at why more and more properties are being sold at over asking price and why gazumping is making a comeback.
Plus, Monty will be talking about green mortgages and how they work, as well as sharing his pick of the latest mortgage products. We're here to help you make money, save money, and most importantly of all, protect yourself, regardless of where you are on your home ownership journey.
Are you ready, Lou?
Let's kick it off, Monty.
Hello, Lou.
Hello.
We've kicked it off. That's like a Euro.
Yeah, you see what I did, right? You see what I did with that? Yeah.
I can't actually talk about football because the prospect of England Germany is because we're recording this before England Germany.
Yes, we are.
So actually, when you listen to this, you might know the result. So hopefully, you're all really happy. Well, if you're English, of course. But I don't know. I'm very nervous. I'm not sure I can go through it again. Extra time, penalties.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. See, I don't really know an awful lot about football, Monty. But what I do know is, if it goes to penalties, we don't normally do so well with that, do we?
Well, we haven't got the best record. Although in recent years we're a lot better. So I have faith. Here we go. It's coming
positive.
Home and all that palaver.
Positive, yeah, all of that, yeah.
So we have had just ridiculously. In fact, I haven't even spoken to you this week.
No, not directly.
This is actually sort of the first time we're talking.
This is, yes.
So we're just sort of recording on the fly.
I do miss my Monty chats, but it's been yeah.
But you've been house hunting still.
Yep.
Okay, so I genuinely haven't caught up with Louisa, so I don't know my answer to this next question. How's it going? Have you moved in yet?
No, we haven't found anywhere yet. No.
Why? What's going on?
So I think it's a combination of there are just so many buyers and so few houses available, properties available. And it's not, just in one pocket of the country. This kind of seems to be occurring, pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's kind of getting to the point where if a property kind of is advertised on a Thursday, because Thursday is quite a kind of popular day for agents to put properties live on websites.
Yeah.
If the first chance I get to call the agent is a Saturday morning, it's a common occurrence now that the property will have gone under offer by that point.
Yeah. I tell you what, the estate agents we're speaking to are saying the same thing. Anything good that comes onto the market, wow, they're having about 20, 30, 40 viewings and they're getting offers and it's going quickly. But there's just not enough stuff coming onto the market.
No. And this happened literally in the week. So Thursday afternoon, something came on. I have all my alerts set up, obviously. And I was like, this looks amazing. So I didn't actually get to speak to the agent until yesterday evening. At which point, they were very, very lovely. And they said, look, I'm really sorry, it's already gone. We actually it was something ridiculous, like 21 viewings and 5 offers. And 5 of those offers, 3 of them were from people who hadn't actually stepped foot in the property.
Blimey.
Yeah.
God, it just shows how obsessed we are, aren't we? We must have a property. I don't even need to see it these days.
Yeah. So that's been, and even though kind of like you and I both, respectively do what we do, even that, I'm shocked. And even though I kind of talk about it and write about this stuff pretty much all day, every day, it's still shocking when it's actually happening in real life.
Yeah.
And I think, what has been quite interesting, I would say, is like literally within the last 4 or 5 days, I've noticed that there have been more properties being listed, and it's kind of coming along, in quite a glut. And I think my sense is, and from having spoken to a couple of estate agents, what's happening is that a few properties have already fallen out of bed. Transactions have fallen out of bed because people have been made aware they're not going to meet the deadline of the end of June. So, for example, we're going to view a property after we finished recording this podcast, and that is a property that has come back to the market because the sale fell through like literally yesterday.
Right, because of stamp duty.
Yeah.
I've heard anecdotally that we're starting to see cracks in chains, and stuff is falling through, which is concerning.
So I don't know how many of those there will be, but my guess would be, if that's going to occur and we're going to see a real trend, it will happen quite quickly because, of course, the end of the month is next week.
Yeah, so that's right.
But yeah, it's a crazy time. I don't ever remember it being like this before.
No, ironically, you might see loads of properties back on the market again in a couple of weeks,
maybe,
which is very interesting. So what? So obviously you're in this process. What advice have you got for people who are in the same boat as you, so to speak?
So I think probably the best tip I could give you right now is that I've got a list of, it's about 30 estate agents that we're registered with as buyers. And I make a point of either calling them or emailing them, or some of them actually are on WhatsApp, which is awesome, every week. And I'm just saying to them, hiya, we're still looking. If there's anything that you're out valuing, or if there's anything that becomes reavailable that you think would suit our needs and our budget, I'd love to hear from you. And it is that constant weekly nudging, because then you're top of the agent's mind should that happen. And that's actually, how I've managed to get, we're now doing viewings on Sundays. Some of the agents that I'm registered with are now actually booking Sunday viewings because there's only 7 days in the week, right? So, and 2 of the viewings that we're doing tomorrow have come as a direct consequence of me nudging them this week and saying, have you got anything? And they've said, yes, actually, we valued 2 properties. And, before we put it out, as being advertised, we're going to get a few potential buyers around. Would you like to be one of them?
Yeah.
So it does
definitely
work.
Keep in touch with estate agents. Yeah. Totally agree with that.
Yeah. And just I think actually just, be nice. And I know that sounds really, really basic, right? Really, really trite. But the reality of it is it's an extremely stressful time for everybody involved in the profession. You must feel it, Monty. Solicitors are feeling it. Estate agents are feeling it. So just being that nice buyer on the end of the phone who's really understanding and pleasant and nice to deal with does make a big difference as to, if they've got 2 people that they can ring about a property, you've got one person who's kind of a bit off and one person who's really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who do you think is going to get the phone call?
That's always the way of life, though, isn't it? Always treat people how you want to be treated.
Absolutely.
And you find you get on with people better, and you get more of what you want.
Well, it's nice to be nice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, top tip. There you go.
Top
be
tip,
nice
be
to
nice.
estate agents. Yeah.
Anything else?
So I think the other thing is make sure that you've got your mortgage sorted and ready to go.
Yeah. Have you done your mortgage?
Yeah, I knew you'd ask.
You didn't do it with me.
No. Because you're really busy. You've spent the last 3 months telling me you're so busy. I didn't want to bother you.
It's all right. We have people. I have 30 incredibly expert, friendly, down-to-earth brokers.
Oh, well,
there you go.
I didn't like to ask because I knew you've been really stressed. But yes,
no, it's all right.
Yeah, so yes, have.
I'm not going to talk to you for the rest of the podcast.
Don't be offended. Don't be offended.
I'm not offended.
That. It's not like that.
It's okay. It's good as long as you're sorting your mortgage, getting advice. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, but it's interesting again because the amount of estate agents that obviously I speak to more now than I have done recently for a long time. And apart from taking all your details to register you, usually sort of after your phone number and your current address and email address, the next question is, after, what are you looking for? The next is, have you got your mortgage sorted? And I do get it. And it is, but equally, it's quite, it's all about, in this kind of market, it's about putting your best foot forward as a buyer.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
And it's presenting, and this again may sound very counterintuitive, but it's all about presenting yourself as the best buyer possible so that then the agent kind of sells you to the seller. And I do, and I know I say this often, and I do appreciate that when you're spending hundreds of thousands of pounds on something, it would be normal to feel that you're the customer. But in the property world, it just doesn't work like that. So it's all about selling yourself as being proceedable, which means that if you've already sold or you're already under offer or you've got nothing to sell, that puts you in a really good position because it means there's no complicated chain. So if you're coming to an agent saying, I've got my mortgage sorted, I'm proceedable, that puts you kind of further up the list perhaps than somebody who's got something to sell but hasn't got their property under offer yet.
Yeah, totally agree. We always say to everyone, get your mortgage sorted first. Well, first of all, you need to know how much you can actually
and that's the other thing.
afford. That's really important.
Yeah.
There's no point going shopping and then realising, the equivalent of your credit card is being declined.
Yeah.
And expect that question from agents. If you're going into a shop or if you're going to buy anything, they always ask how you're going to pay for it.
Yeah. And it's not personal.
You need to be ready.
Exactly.
It's not personal, no.
And it's all about, especially if you're selling, I think it's important if you're sort of simultaneously buying and selling, you have to think if an estate agent is asking you, well, have you got anything to sell and have you got your mortgage ready to go, then don't feel slightly offended by that, because more than likely the agent that's selling your house will be doing that on your behalf to find you the best buyer.
Yeah. And the agents have a duty of care.
Yeah, they do.
To actually get that checked out, that they can actually proceed to buy. So the little thing to watch there is, it's okay for an agent to say, look, can you talk to the broker? I just want to know that you're proceedable. That's fine. What they can't say, and I repeat, they can't say, is you have to use my mortgage broker.
Correct. If you ever hear that, that is very bad and naughty.
Correct. And the estate agent has to put all offers up to the vendor. So if they do greet you with, if you don't use my mortgage broker, we're not going to put your offer up or something, that is basically illegal. So you can complain about that, and that's not the way to proceed.
No. Fortunately, not too much of that goes on these days. But for anybody listening, if you do come up against that, then yes, you can absolutely remind any agent that might utter those words that's not allowed.
Yeah. And there might be all kinds of things about that. Make sure you talk to a broker. If you've got an existing mortgage, it might be that you want to port it onto another property. It might be that your existing lender is the best option for you. Or it might be that there's another option out there in the market which is better for you. So it's worth getting all that conversation done first and foremost. So as you say, Lou, when you walk into an estate agent, hey, I'm ready to go. I know how much I can afford. I've got my agreement in principle. Let's go out shopping.
And I think that's a really great bit of advice there, Monty, because I think a lot of people, if they're selling a property and already have a mortgage in place, don't realise that just kind of picking up and moving your current mortgage, it's not always that easy. So even if you've already got a mortgage and you're moving home, it really pays to have an early conversation.
Absolutely.
Just to make sure. So while we're on the subject of mortgages, something you did send me this week was a little thing about green mortgages.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
You sent me a little summit. And I must admit, because things have been going on, I haven't really had a chance to get into it. So a green mortgage, what is a green mortgage? What is that?
Well, a green mortgage, really, it's just a term that there's been a lot of talk about energy efficiency. And there's a massive project from, we are targeted as a country to get to net zero emissions. I can't remember the date, but
it's not very
maybe
far away, is
2030,
it?
is it?
2030 or something like that.
I think
Yeah,
it's 2030. Yes, and actually having an energy efficient home is really, really important to that. So there's lots of talk about how we're going to try and help everyone to make sure that by that time they have energy efficient homes, because of course we're all in loads of different types of houses and accommodation, and some are energy efficient and some aren't. So it's about trying to ensure your property is more sustainable. So as a result, there's a few things that have come out in terms of green mortgages. So they're mortgage options, and I think apparently there are around about 27 green mortgage deals now.
Wow. Okay. That's actually quite a lot, to be fair.
Yeah. So the numbers increased as more mainstream lenders have entered into the market, and that's where, if you have an energy efficient home, so you're A or B rated, then potentially you can get a very slightly cheaper mortgage.
Oh, okay.
Or in some instances, if you want to capital raise money in order to make home improvements, which will make your home greener, potentially there's a little bit. So if you meet the criteria, you may find that you can shave a little off your mortgage repayments, or take advantage of incentives to fund green home improvements.
That's very interesting. So, okay, so you mentioned some mainstream lenders are offering this kind of product. So, what sort of names are we talking about? And how do the rates stack up? I mean, we said they may be a little bit cheaper, but how much of a difference would there be?
The truth is, not much.
Okay.
Cheaper. The first green mortgage, I'm reliably informed, was launched by Barclays. In about 2018, I think, so quite a while ago.
Wow!
And you've had lenders like Nationwide and NatWest have followed suit, and they're often aimed at buyers of energy efficient new build properties.
That makes sense.
But they can be taken out on existing properties now too. Okay. So Nationwide, for example, are among those focusing on the green finance products. As part of the government's green finance strategy, basically. So they work in several different ways, and it's all linked to the energy performance certificate.
Yes. Yes.
So NatWest, for example, have a deal. It's about 0.1% cheaper. So it's not massive.
You say that,
but it's a bit of a saving.
I was going to say, in over a 5-year period, that does add up, right?
Yeah, it does. So you can get a 5-year fix with NatWest at 1.4%. But if you've got energy efficient property, then you can get it at 1.39%. So that's a little example. And Barclays have some good rates as well. So they've just released an 80% product at 1.87.
Okay. Wow.
Virgin Money have also got a range of greener mortgages, which give access to a range of new build products that are priced at 0.1% lower than the equivalent products.
Wow, so there's some good lender names in there. These are names that people would recognise, which is really nice.
Even on the buy-to-let side, the Mortgage Works, for example.
Oh, wow. Buy-to-let as well. Wow, okay.
Yeah, they introduced a range of further advanced products which allow borrowers to add up to £15,000 to their loans to make green improvements to their property. So if you do have an energy efficient property, or you want to raise money specifically in order to do that, it's worth talking to your local broker about whether there are green initiatives there where you can save not much at the moment, but a little bit. And I suspect that we're going to see loads and loads of this over the next 12 months, certainly the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see almost a dual price scenario, which could cause its own problems in the future. Are we going to have our properties that aren't energy efficient going to suddenly drop in value compared to those who are energy efficient? So there's a whole load of work that we've got to be careful around and work through. But green is the biggest buzzword of the day, and getting to zero net emissions is really important, and that isn't going to go away anytime soon, and quite rightly so.
And I do find all of this really interesting, and I could see how this could all form sort of part of the bigger net zero picture. And we're talking about a slight reduction in mortgage rates for an energy efficient property, but I wouldn't be surprised if, again, some years down the line, maybe council tax and maybe even stamp duty rates are linked to the energy efficiency of a property. So, and if you think about the way it's gone with car tax, right? So, the same way that cars which are, electric, if they're fully electric, you don't pay any car tax at all, do you? I don't think so. But then if you've got like a V12 gas guzzler, you're paying the top rate of car tax.
Yeah.
And I can kind of see it playing out that if we're aiming towards properties becoming more energy efficient, it would make sense, wouldn't it, to align, so if you've got a higher band of energy efficiency, you would pay a reduced amount of perhaps council tax. I mean, I don't know that's going to happen, but it kind of feels logical that it might do.
Yeah, it's about getting the right advice out there to people. It's about avoiding the scammers, which will inevitably come. We can make your house green, do this, and actually it doesn't do anything. There are various people who have insulated their loft and thought they're doing the right thing, but actually it's the wrong type of loft insulation, which could be a fire risk. There's a whole heap of issues here. So it's about getting good advice out there on the whole process. And as I say, this is really important, not just for the UK, but for the planet as a whole. And this is something the government are intent on doing. And so watch this space to see what happens next. I was going to say,
it's a watch this space, isn't it? Wow. Wow. Interesting times. Interesting times.
Just a reminder, you're listening to The Property Show with me, Andrew Montlake, and my colleague, Louisa Fletcher. So, Lou, earlier you were talking about your own situation as a buyer and how that chimes with a report you saw recently. What was that report?
Yes, that I need to drink more gin. No, it was a report from property search website Rightmove, who in the last few days have suggested that 37% of homes sold this year, since early this year, have gone for asking price or over.
Wow!
So that's, just to put it into context, that's well above the long-term recorded average, which they started recording it in 2005, by the way, which has been, up until recently, 10%.
So 37%.
Yeah.
That's a big old jump, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a bit, yeah.
Yeah, blimey.
It is all a bit bonkers, but, if you think that's, a bit nuts, apparently Yorkshire and the Humber is currently the best performing region in the UK, where 45% of homes at the moment are selling for at least asking price, or if not going at over asking price.
Yorkshire.
Aye.
The home of Yorkshire tea. Love it.
I've got a Yorkshire passport, Monty.
Have you?
Yeah. I'm a proud daughter of Yorkshire.
People. Yeah, I lived in Leeds for 4 years. I like Yorkshire people. They just tell you what they think, don't they?
Don't call a spade a garden implement. Yeah. Yep.
I know what I like, and I like what I know.
Exactly. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
I love it. I love them. Them. So go on. How on earth is this happening?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could tell you something really kind of like, new and innovative, but it is very simple. It's a supply and demand issue. And there just aren't enough homes to meet current demand. So what we're seeing, and it's at all price points, so from first-time buyers to way up into the multi-million pound price bracket.
Yeah.
It's just competitive bidding between desperate buyers. And that's it. There's nothing else. There's nothing else to say. It's there is literally a scrum of people trying to buy most properties, and that's what happens.
So there are various terms, aren't there, that come out of that. So I'm hearing about offers over,
Yeah.
sealed bids,
Yeah. It does all.
gazumping. What
Yeah.
do you want to tell people what they mean?
Yeah, so it does all sound a bit scary, and kind of rightly so, I guess. So, offers over. So you may well see a property advertised, and it'll have a price tag, and then next to it will have the magic words "offers over." So what that means is, if you're interested in buying that property, you need to bid as an offer over whatever it is that base figure is. So generally where this happens is that there is an opportunity after you've put your offer forward for a bit more backwards and forwards, maybe, if you're lucky. So the price can end up being nudged up a little bit further by negotiation, but it's one of those you've got to start somewhere kind of situations.
Yeah.
Sealed bids are a bit different. So this is usually when you've got multiple offers that have all come in at asking price, which, a few years ago, that was kind of like, a bit of a rare event. But these days it's pretty much daily occurrence. The agent will go back to all the buyers and ask them to put forward their maximum, or what's called best price, by a certain date. So they may say on a Monday, okay, we're going to go to sealed bids. You've got until Friday this week to put your best price forward. And then all the offers are put forward to the seller. And then the seller selects the best bid. And the best bid is, the price is obviously a part of that, but it could also be the buyer's position. So sometimes what you might find is that somebody will bid the highest, but they may be in a chain of 5, 6, 7 or 8 properties. Yeah. So they may not technically be in the best position, whereas somebody may have come in with a slightly lower bid, but they may be a cash buyer or have no chain. So they may be in a better position. But all of those offers would be assessed between the seller and the estate agent, and then the seller decides which one they want to go for. So that's sealed bids. So once you've put your offer forward, that's it, you're done. You just have to sit and wait. Yeah.
So it's quite an amazing time to be a seller. Do you think they're in the driving seat at the moment?
Yes.
Do you think that will change?
Well, everything always does, right? So it is a seesaw, and that's kind of how I kind of liken the property market.
It is always, isn't it?
But yes, I mean, it is an incredibly good time to be a seller, because you're likely to realise the optimum price for your property. But that does kind of create a whole new set of problems. And I kind of liken this to fashion kind of thing. So, shoulder pads, they were big in the 80s, boot cut jeans, they were really fashionable about 15, 16, 17 years ago. And then it's, you don't wear them. And then all of a sudden they come back in fashion. Yeah. No, they were, but they're kind of actually now, they're kind of coming back, the boot cut flare is now back on
What about my tight jeans, cowboy boots and leather jacket with a sort of hooped earring in my left ear?
Is that
that's
still a mental
fashionable
picture there? Yeah, I mean, maybe.
That was it. That was my look in the 80s. 90s.
But you see, it all comes around, you see. So what goes around comes around. Because gazumping was quite fashionable back in 2006, and we've not heard that much about it.
Yeah, I remember that very well. But I've started to hear that a little bit again. So
making a comeback.
Do you want to explain what it is for those that don't know?
So gazumping is a really quite tricky thing. So when you're a buyer and you've had your offer accepted and you're really excited, and you've got your lovely solicitor or conveyancer who started all your legal paperwork and did all the searches and everything else, and you've got your lovely mortgage broker who's sorting your mortgage out, and then before exchange, you get the phone call to say that your seller has accepted another higher offer on their property. And a lot of people don't realise that this is still legal in this country. But basically, until you've exchanged, all bets are off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have heard first-hand stories, and this has happened recently, that buyers have been gazumped 2 or 3 days before exchange.
Yeah.
And there are many reasons why a seller may be may feel the need to do that. It may be that they've just had a cash offer from a buyer that's basically just too good to turn down. And I think the one thing I'd point out here is it's rarely the agent's fault that gazumping occurs, because actually agents don't want to be in that situation. But you have to remember that the person paying the estate agent's fees is the seller, and therefore they're paying the bill, therefore they call the shots. So if the seller says, I want you to continue marketing this property and I will accept higher offers right up until the point of exchange, the agent, has to do what their client asks them to do. So if you are, and I really hope nobody listening is on the receiving end of one of these phone calls, but if you ever are, take a breath, because the chances are the estate agent didn't want to be in that position either. But that's kind of where you both find yourselves.
Yeah, they just want a smooth transaction, like all of us in the property market. It's not in our interest just to drive prices up or screw people over. It's all about, let's have a proper good housing market.
Yeah, let's and I think if you spoke to the majority of estate agents, they would always give you the same advice as a seller, which is you choose your buyer carefully, then you back them. Back your buyer.
Yeah,
right?
Totally agree.
But this does happen. So,
and that's sort of the reverse of gazundering, isn't it? You got gazumping, gazundering.
Yeah. And I've actually been gazundered.
You have been gazundered.
I have been about 20 years
ago. There you go. There's
ago.
A headline.
Yeah.
Louisa in Gazunder shocker.
In Gazunder.
So what happened then?
So it was about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And literally just before exchange. And when I say just before exchange, it was the day before exchange.
Oh, no.
And my buyer communicated through my estate agent that unless I reduced the price of the property I was selling by a few £1,000s, they wouldn't be continuing with the purchase.
Yeah.
And at the time, I mean, cast your mind back to the year 2000, the market was very, very slow. And, my buyer was understandably concerned about falling house prices and this, that, and the other. I needed to move at the time. I was relocating for work, so I had no choice. And I was a long way down. I mean, obviously, the day before exchange, it's all kind of... and so I had to go back to the estate agent I was buying through and negotiate the same amount of money that I was having to drop off my onward purchase. So I didn't want to have that conversation, but I kind of had to have it. So you can see how it creates that ripple effect,
Yeah, absolutely.
And and again, as I said, everything comes back in fashion. And we did actually see quite a lot of gazundering going on during the credit crunch, because there were desperate sellers and buyers that were in a strong position to negotiate went basically did what
so it's not like the
they
Scottish system, which I'm a big fan of, I must say, where actually you put in binding offers, isn't it? So here, really, the house isn't yours until exchange. So you know, in a buyer's market, you're subject. You could be gazundered. In a seller's market, you could be gazumped.
Correct.
So I think that's the right way round. I'm confusing myself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So can you do anything quickly to stop that?
Well, it's tricky. Technically, you could, if both parties agree to it, enter into what's called a lockout agreement, which is a legally binding contract which both sides sign up to. Sometimes it involves both sides putting an amount of money into a pot. And this basically says that, there obviously have to be get out of jail free clauses. So it's subject to a property passing a survey and subject to everybody keeping their jobs during the transaction. And there are loads of things that you have to kind of build into these contracts. So you can, if both sides agree. However, my experience is a lot of solicitors don't like lockout agreements because they can take a few weeks to get in place. Because it's a legal document, right? So you've got to draw it up correctly. And actually, most solicitors will argue that, well, you might as well not bother with that, and you might as well just spend the time working towards getting it exchanged.
Yeah, agreed.
So it's there are ways that you can do it, but both sides do have to be in agreement. If you're buying a brand new property, less likely to be a problem because you're paying a reservation agreement. And generally speaking, once the reservation agreement has been paid to the developer, then I'm not going to say you're home and dry because stuff can still happen, but there's a degree of, okay, all right, well, things will take their course. But we are where we are, right? This is the transactional process in England and Wales. It is what you have to work with
until the law changes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. They don't say that moving house is amongst one of the top 5 most stressful things you can do for no reason.
No, I know. Well, we can see that firsthand with all these millions of clients trying to get through for the equivalent of deadline day.
Yeah.
There you go. Be interviewing Harry Redknapp from a car window soon about the deadline day. Anyway, there you go. There's another football analogy for you.
Nice.
on that bombshell.
So we are nearly out of time again. I've had my personal therapy session about the traumas of moving with
It is
me.
becoming that way, isn't it?
It is. I promise I'll try not to do that to you again.
That's all right. I quite enjoy it. In a perverse way, at your expense.
So I kind of, but do you know what, right? If we're finding it difficult, because obviously I'm in the industry, my other half is in the industry, as you know. If we're finding it difficult, hopefully that may send a bit of hope to people. It is difficult. So if people who know what they're doing are finding it difficult, then it's okay to get stressed about it, I think is the message.
Yes, but if you got, I always say it's a holy trinity. You have a good estate agent, a good solicitor, and a good broker. Then things are a lot smoother in general. And that's what we do.
That's very true. That's very true, actually. Yeah.
So there you go.
I would agree with that. So before I rush off to go and view yet another house, what mortgage rates have caught your eye this week? Have you got? We spoke about green mortgages earlier, but have you found any other gems?
Well, there are now 8 mortgage lenders with rates under 1%.
No.
Or at 1% or under. Yeah.
No.
8 of them. I counted them literally this morning. All 8.
Wow.
Different ones. So yeah, you can get a 2-year fix at 0.95% still. 2-year tracker at 0.98%. You can get a 5-year fix, 1.14%.
That is bonkers.
Or if you've got a green property, 1.13%. There you go. So slightly cheaper. So yeah, it's mad, and we're really going into a mortgage rate war, as far as I can see, because lenders are starting to see, okay, well, things might be getting a bit quieter. Stamp duty's ending. The summer's coming. The pubs are opening. England are going to win the Euros. And actually,
I shouldn't laugh. This is where I should be patriotic and just say, yes, of course we will. Yes.
And if we're already out, we're not going to win it anyway. So I think they're looking in advance and going, right, okay, well, we need to keep momentum going. So we're seeing rates cut all over the place. Even at 90% now, you can get 5-year fix through digital mortgages by Atom Bank at 2.44%, and at 95%, the choice continues to widen.
Now that's really good news. Yeah, that's really
2-year fix from digital mortgages, Atom Bank 3.39%. So there are good deals all over the place, but as we've said before, covered at the moment, the problem is lack of stock. But for all those people who have a mortgage, man, it is a really good time to remortgage.
I was going to say, and let's face it, the vast majority of owner-occupiers in the UK are not going to be moving anytime soon. So if you are thinking about remortgaging, it feels to me that this is a good time, because it may be in some circumstances, and Monty, correct me if I'm wrong because you're the expert here, even if you have to pay an early repayment charge to exit your current product, you may actually save that and a bit more by remortgaging onto a cheaper product.
Yeah, you
right?
might do, dependent on what rate you're on and what the penalties are. And any good local broker will be able to do that calculation for you. So yeah, it's worthwhile. But that's it. We're done.
Wow.
We're done.
It's quick
We're
when
out
you're
of
having
time.
fun. Thank you
There
so
you go.
much, Monty. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, and good luck with your property search. And I hope the one you see after this, you fall in love with. It goes through smoothly, and I look forward to the housewarming party when I can wreck your nice new property. I mean, where I can pay homage to your nice new property. Because it will be me dropping something on a new carpet.
I'll forgive you. I'd forgive you.
Anyway,
Yeah.
make sure it's in the summer. We can do it outside.
Yeah.
Right, there you go. That's it. Thank you for listening in again. If you do like what you hear, please give us a rating. Actually, if you don't like what you hear, give us a rating. Tell us what we're doing wrong. There you go. I like that. Constructive criticism always helps.
True.
But leave us a review in your podcast app.
And don't forget, we're here to help with your property problems and mortgage dilemmas. You're not just listening to my property problems anymore. We're encouraging you to share. So if you would like our advice or just need a bit of therapy, why not drop us an email to hello@theproperty-show.co.uk.
And if you want the very latest on the property market from the two of us, please give us a follow on social media. You'll find us on Twitter @ThePropertyShowPod.
Thanks so much for joining us. See you next time.